The Democratic Party is terrified of the idea of Joe Biden running for president again because they think he will lose. So they're undermining him, obviously. But if it's not Biden, who would it be? Who are the other potential candidates? Well, Dana Perino is one of the best people in the world at thinking this stuff through. She's co-anchor of America's Newsroom, co-host of The Five, a friend of ours, probably a lot of other things, too, a dog owner. She joins us tonight. Dana, thanks for coming on. So,
honor to be here.
Let's just stipulate that there are a lot of Democrats who don't want Biden to run again. Nothing personal, but his approval rating suggests he shouldn't run again. So if it's not Biden, who would it be, do you think?
Well, do you remember a few months ago I came on your program and I suggested to everybody to keep a watch on Hillary Rodham Clinton because she was making noise about how the election was taken from her, that she would be somebody who could save the party, really. Now, there's three people who are saying this on the record. One is Hillary Clinton, the other is Bernie Sanders, and now your friend, Liz Warren. So they all three are on the record are basically saying, look, if Biden chooses not to run again, I will run. Although Hillary's not said that, she's basically intimated it. Then there's all of these people that are on background in all of the mainstream media. Have you noticed this, Tucker? It's like, Joe Biden is leading us to a terrible place. And so then the question becomes, well, would it be Kamala Harris? Immediately, if Joe Biden decided not to run, and I predict that if he were to make that decision, it would be the Wednesday before Thanksgiving or the Monday after Thanksgiving. So I want to be on record saying that. Immediately, the question is, will you endorse Kamala Harris? And I think that is really in question and unlikely. I think he sees a lot of his son Beau in Mayor Pete. I also think that Stacey Abrams, if she were to somehow win the governorship in Georgia, she's an automatic entry into this race. Jared Polis is the governor of Colorado. People are kind of interested in him. He would be a way out-of-the-box choice, but a governor would be probably a better bet for the Democrats, though I think that they are in for not only a bad 2022, but to me, it looks really hard for me to understand how they would turn it around by 2024.
It sure feels that way. Then there's Barack Obama, who's already served his 2 terms, of course, but he's emerged to weigh in on like some of the biggest policy issues of the moment, which former presidents don't typically do. Do you see any significance in that?
Well, I think part of the things that we're dealing with now as a country is that we've never had so many former presidents still living, this long.
Right.
I think Jimmy Carter hasn't been president since 1980, and he is still with us. And although he doesn't comment on foreign policy as much as he used to, he still likes to weigh in once in a while. President Obama is a young man. He's got this Netflix deal. He's got a Spotify deal. He's out there and about. And also, I think that he takes umbrage at the idea that Joe Biden says that he's the most progressive president because Barack Obama wants that title. I also think that President Obama truly believes that in 2016, had he been able to be the one running against Donald Trump, that he would have run. And so in some ways, he's like thinking that he is still the kingmaker and that Joe Biden in 2024 is not going to be in that position. That position, I think, is still held by Barack Obama.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right about that. Dana Perino, thanks so much.
Great to see you
tonight.
Bye-bye.
Subscribe to the Fox News YouTube channel to catch our nightly opens, stories that are changing the world and changing your life. From Tucker Carlson Tonight.